Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to another game review. This time I will be reviewing the 1980s TSR Top Secret. This was one of my favorite games back in the day for a whole lot of reasons. Although, I'm going to have to, be honest. How much playability there is left in this exact edition of Top Secret is really going to be up to you. Now, mind you, I was in my early to mid-teens when this game came out, and when I was playing it, it was based around 1970s, 1980s information on the world of espionage. And during part of that time, as you guys know, I did some PI work and some other things related that made this game so much fun, because I didn't always get to do the really big things, you can't really go into what I actually did, but, I was surrounded by people who were kind of involved in the same stuff, just on a less governmental basis, but they still did the things that made them heroes and legends, at least in the circles I traveled in. Now, I've had this copy for a good long time. It's in really good shape. I'm also going to, just for the heck of it, talk about the administrator's screen and mini module, just because it's actually pretty hysterical. Believe it or not, I thought it was quite funny. Obviously, it came with the 001 module. My German is non-existent, so I'm not going to bother trying to read that name, but I will call it from here on out codename Pisces. This was a lot of fun, but first things first, that would be the game manual. But before I go into that, I do have all the little paperwork that came in here with it, the Role-Playing Game Association membership, and the business replies to get a free gift certificate, the Attention Software authors, and I have a couple copies of several of these things, along with a whole bunch of leftover photocopies of the agent dossier, otherwise known as a character sheet. Now, I'll get that later. Let's start off with the basics. That would be the game manual, all of 62 pages. Not too bad for its time. However, that time has long since passed. We're looking at 40 years difference between then and now. And I suppose if you were a little bit more knowledgeable, a little more educated, and obviously older when this came out, this would be a great game to be able to run, set in the 70s or the 80s, maybe even in the 40s or 50s. But for the most part, so much of the information has now been made irrelevant or inaccurate or downright false. I'm not going to give Merle too much of a hard time. He during this time we were in the Cold War, and information was sketchy at best. Let's put it that way. But it did have some interesting mechanics. The hand-to-hand and weapons combat, firearms, that sort of thing, was actually pretty decent for its time. The martial arts and hand-to-hand combat was a little clunky at first, but once you got used to it, it was pretty good. The character stats, everything is done with either a set of percentile dice or sort of a modified 20-sided die, the 0 to 1 sort of doubled 20-sided dice. Your characters having several, traditional stats: your physical strength, your charm, your willpower, courage, knowledge, coordination, and then tertiary stats based off those: offense, defense, evasion, deactivation, life level, movement value, hand-to-hand combat value, surprise value, etc. And the latter stats were based on two stats put together and then divided by half, which, okay, giving everybody a deactivation chance, it was actually kind of interesting, but at the same time, sometimes, a little too much of a gimme, I think, unless the particular spy organization your characters came from had an extensive course in those things. With the little bit of knowledge I have on such things, giving everybody the chance based on your knowledge and coordination divided by 2. Obviously, the stats, I don't have a problem with where they come up with the number, but the fact that they get it at all seems a little bit too much of a gimme. Your life level, I've yet to see any characters with more than 20 hit points. That's what they were, and that's actually kind of a good thing. The characters also had things called fame and fortune points, which were mechanics that would allow you to avoid almost certain death. Your areas of knowledge were pretty well handled, but there were many an argument over what you could do with them. Having a GM or administrator in this case who was knowledgeable in everything on those lists was hard to come by, so oftentimes it was just a no, you can't do that, even though you probably should have been able to do that. Now, back in the day, I remember, mind you, my old man had a gun shop, and that's how we got started in the things we did. And the prices here were ridiculous in a lot of cases. Not so much for the firearms, although depending on where you lived, you could get them cheaper than listed here. And working for a big bad government agency, having to pay for every piece of equipment was kind of ridiculous. You should be set out. If you're going on a bona fide mission, they're going to gear you up. It's just that simple. I'm pretty sure Maxwell Smart and James Bond didn't have to pay for every piece of equipment. And again, mind you, those characters were obviously not first level. So, there should have been a little bit more give and take. $50 for a pair of binoculars back in the 70s and 80s. I can get a great pair now for that price. So it seemed like the company was gouging you quite some extent. Sorry. Hey, knock it off. Prices for vehicles and things like that. Sorry for the interruption, guys. Dog is being a butthead. Now, movement rates, things like that, not too bad. The other thing I had a problem with was the experience points. Not so much, but the payment for each mission was now, mind you, at early levels I could see where you're getting paid on a case-by-case basis until you're a full-fledged member. But this game always came across as if you were a trained actual member of one of the 3 branches: assassination, what were the 3? Investigation, assassination, and some form of acquisition, basically thievery. So you had your investigators, your thieves, and your assassins, and the payment for those missions was a little on the light side. I always felt that it should be more of an actual weekly or monthly base pay period, because that's the way all the big agencies actually work. Everything else, though, was not too bad. There was an interesting chart here I wanted to go over. The unusually elaborate execution table, where when your heroes inevitably get captured and the bad guy, goes on through his monologue before sentencing you to death via some sort of execution table. The methods of extermination: air injected in veins, bloodletting, decapitation, drawing and quartering, drowning, electrocution, firing squad, gassing, hanging, impaling, incineration, pendulum blade, that's a classic, run over with a land vehicle, scorpion sting, snake bite, spider bite, stoning, strangulation, suffocation, tarantula bite, throat slit, that should have been up with the bloodletting or decapitation. Thrown from a height, thrown to the animals, ultrasonic bombardment, etc. Just right off the bat, there's the classic image of the woman trying to avoid the pendulum blade. Good luck. For my guess, she's already taken a couple of hit points of damage, but that's just me. The chance of escape, the time it took, etc. If your characters are already in this position, it's depending, I suppose, on the exact method. I can see using a fate or a fortune point to spring the locks or something like that. But otherwise, firing squad, yeah, it's over. You're just done. Make up a new character and move on. The prices for constructing a headquarters and that sort of thing, if only the prices were that good ever in this country, we would have installations and fortifications everywhere. Special devices, what's a good spy game without, a shoe phone or a laser watch or something like that. The espionage related organizations was actually pretty interesting. It's a shame they didn't have the internet back then, so you could actually look this stuff up. Trying to look it up in the old days with, if you had access to a computer at your local library, was bound to get you on a list. The glossary of espionage-related terms, not bad, but some of them were a little hokey and left over from the 50s, the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Bibliography, not bad, rather short. If those are the only books that Merle wanted to list because of time constraints or page layout, I get it. Otherwise, it's a pretty short list, and my library actually includes some of these books, but quite a few more that should have just been no-brainers on this list. A couple of pages of charts, which, to be honest, having the GM screen made that kind of pointless. And I do recommend, if you're going to play the game, which, kind of think that's going to be an iffy, sell to your players, and I'll go into that why at the end of this video, but always get your GM screen. If you're lucky, it's going to come with a mini module. This one I'll go into in just a minute, because I want to talk about Codename Pisces, a small little European town where everything is for sale, everybody is for sale, and nobody seems to mind whatsoever. I found that premise a little hokey, but for a good beginner first level game, this is everything you need. It's very much along the lines of B1 Expedition into the Unknown from Dungeons and Dragons, the same company obviously, that allowed you to mix and match and pick and choose the equivalent of items, treasures, which was one of the best parts about this. And the NPCs, you could place them here and there. That was a little bit difficult unless you were really familiar with their universal profile of characters. You just got a long stream of numbers that you'd have to try to remember the order of what came first. LL, it was an easy one, life level. Again, there's actually a character here with 21 hit points. That would be a monster, to the equivalent of an ogre at against a first level party. Just somebody tough as nails and probably as big as The Rock or Andre the Giant. But the overall mission, I don't want to spoil too much, is you're looking to rescue one of a number of people that have been kidnapped and are about to be put on the auction block. There was a lot of that here, a lot of adult material sort of squirreled away here and there. But some of the actual treasure, they call them object targets, valuing sometimes into the thousands. One item in particular The Serpent's Eye, a topaz worth $20,000. Handing that off to a first level party, that's kind of a big deal. At that point, there's literally nothing in the book you couldn't buy. I think even a limousine, which is kind of weird. Those things are pretty expensive, always have been. But a few other decent items in here, as well as some gear. But there were, close to 35, I want to say, different pieces of treasure, 34 objects that you could mix and match and place throughout the confines of this small little town. That the players were given a map, which was actually very handy. Also a list of pre-gen characters, which not really a big fan. I really like to make my own characters, but to get people stuck in right away, and giving everybody a pick and let them bicker amongst themselves who gets to play who might speed the game up by hours. The map, blank, so that you could fill in what the shops were and where they were, that sort of thing. Unfortunately, there's actually 3 maps, so the players are going to need some graph paper once they get to certain parts of this little town. But for the price back in the day, getting the module, the rule book, you didn't get the screen, you had to pay for that separately. Not bad. Now the screen, obviously, it's got all the pertinent charts everywhere you need them. Unfortunately, it's only a 3 folder. It really should have been 4, and I think the hand-to-hand combat table should have been duplicated on one of those sides, just so the GM has it. Otherwise, he's got a bunch of charts on the inside and the hand-to-hand here on the back for the players. Means you're going to be looking into your book. Now, the mission that comes in here is, believe it or not, your first level characters, maybe second or third level characters, and mind you, only like 2 or 3 characters were recommended for this adventure, where you were to, and I quote, rescue the president from Canadian terrorists. And it gets better. They're rescuing him from a haunted house. So just Scooby-Doo meets Johnny Quest. Very short, 6 pages plus the floor plans of the area, and of course the underground area as well. Mind you, the character stats on the president were really sad, but maybe they actually knew what they were talking about, depending on who you're talking about. It was one of the best reads out of my beginning foray into Top Secret. Mind you, like I said, I did play it back in the day, but I'm going to be reviewing every module for the original Top Secret over the course of the rest of this month. I'm more enthused to read this than I was Hollow World. You guys may have noticed I stopped reading it. I literally could not force myself to read another page of that god-awful box set. I'm seriously contemplating selling it because it is so awful, and garnering an eBay price of about $250. I would be I know if I sell it, I'm going to regret it later, but at this moment in time, I know I will never run it. I could create a much better version, more to my liking and my players' liking, with, some effort. I'm not going to say very little. I was tempted. But at 250 plus pages, I think I'd get worn out after about 150, not needing all of the ridiculousness that was in it. But like I said, I'm going to be doing the original Top Secret, and when I finish that, I will be going into Top Secret Special Investigations, and when I'm done with that, I will also go over the new 3rd edition of Top Secret New World Order, which, little spoiler alert, I read and was not happy with it at all. I know there were a lot of Kickstarter issues with it, and for some reason it's going for like $100 for the hardback copy of you know, what should have been done completely different. If you're fans of the new version, let me know why, but I won't be getting to that until, you know, at least a couple of months from now. I'm gonna go into, because I own almost all, I should say, missing like 3 books out of everything up to and including the 3rd edition of Top Secret, the extra box sets, the solo adventures. There are a couple of graphic novels I want to pick up as well, around Agent 13 and that sort of thing. But I was a huge fan of Top Secret for obvious reasons, and I wouldn't mind running another campaign of that, whether it's going to be used for my Nazi dinosaur cults of Antarctica, or just a modern day spy adventure. We'll see. Again, the dog is barking, probably means my Amazon packages are here, so I'm going to have to let you guys go and then go beat the dog. I'm totally kidding, folks. You know I love my mutt. But I hope you guys had a great day, great holidays. We've got a lot of great new stuff coming up for you, including a video from Jim Lenny, who will be making an appearance tonight around 6:30 Pacific Standard Time. Hope you guys all watched the playlist for the views. It was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with our special guest tonight on the Jim Lemmy Show. So that's it for all of us here at the Shadow and Sun Show, except for the dog who won't stop barking. I will see you guys later tonight, and until then, happy trails.